I truly am honored. And although I have to tell you, Michael upped the ante on me this year by telling me that this year I have to bring the hope. So here it goes. Are you feeling the hope yet? Well, if you're not, that's okay. I guess not everybody has the same relationship with shoes that I do. But in all honesty, I do see hope as fundamentally part of my job and our purpose at Edmonton Global. And if you didn't see my presentation last year, you might be thinking right about now is when the nice lady from TV is going to start handing out prizes or shoes or something. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm not from Global Edmonton News Organization. As Michael indicated, I'm with Edmonton Global, an economic development corporation focused on radically transforming and growing the economy of our Edmonton Metropolitan Region. And so you could say that hope is actually what drives us to fulfill that purpose. As I've worked with entrepreneurs, innovators, educators, and advocates across our region over the past year, I've seen a lot of uncertainty, hardship, and loss, definitely. But I've also seen triumph and some incredible achievements that I think should be celebrated. You may be surprised to hear that over 4,000 new businesses started up in our region last year. The University of Alberta's researcher, Dr. Michael Houghton, was awarded the Nobel Prize. No less than 5 people from our region received the Order of Canada. Local tech companies, DriveWise and Jobber, each raised over $70 million in growth funding. And another local company, Tivasol, won the NASA iTech competition. They created a technology that preserves donor organs for long periods of time. Hope is really at the core of all of this. And I truly believe that there is opportunity in every crisis, even this one. Last year, I talked about how the global economy was going through a major transformation, driving demand for new products and services and creating new economic challenges and opportunities. No, I'm not clairvoyant. In fact, this has been happening over the past 2 decades at least. The global economy has been transforming from being primarily tangible-based or a traditional industrial economy to being intangible-based, also known as the knowledge economy. That's not to say that there's no longer a need for industrial products. It's just that the value of intangible assets like patents, brand, data, and software have far outpaced the value of tangible assets like machinery, equipment, land, and inventory. This chart represents the most valuable companies on the S&P 500 list. And as you can see, over time, the most valuable parts of those companies are intangible assets. This phenomenon marked the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. So if this time last year, we were riding the wave of the fourth year, we were in the midst of the great acceleration. COVID has propelled existing trends like digitization, e-commerce, 5G technology, and artificial intelligence forward faster. Do you remember when DVDs started coming out? For the longest time, I'm going to admit, I was a VHS holdout. I wasn't interested in switching all my tapes over. I was comfortable with my system. And to be very honest, I wasn't really convinced that the DVD trend was going to last. Oh, sure, you laugh now. I'm assuming you're laughing, but I was not alone. And if you're not laughing and you're totally lost, you might be a millennial. And if so, I apologize for this analogy. But my point is, the same thing has been happening in Alberta for the past number of years. Many of our businesses, governments, and institutions have been digitization holdouts. But COVID took us from a VHS world to an online streaming world, skipping right over DVDs and Blu-ray pretty much overnight. And I'm going to disagree a little bit with Benjamin here, and I'm going to say that there is no going back. And to those who keep saying, I can't wait until things get back to normal, trust me, I get it. But I have to say, throw out your VCR already. When the world changes around us, we must change with it or be left behind. But instead of lamenting it, let's look at what these trends mean for investors, consumers, and industries, and most importantly, for the Edmonton region, so that we can plan, lead, and execute in this reality. Because this reality is our normal now, even if some things go back to the way that they were. For investors, to put it simply, it means they're spending less on bricks and mortar and more on research and development. Do you know which three companies spent the most on R&D last year? You take a guess. Well, Samsung was the first. Not a huge surprise, I suppose. I mean, their fridges have TVs in them now. Alphabet, which owns Google, and Volkswagen. That's right, a car company. It's not just the Googles, Apples, and Microsofts of the world that are focusing on intangible assets. Walmart is in the top 10 highest valued companies on the S&P 500 list. And their value doesn't come primarily from their inventory of products. It comes from big data. They use it to make pharmacies more efficient, improve store checkout and customer experience, and manage steps of a supply chain. Oil and gas companies like Suncor and Dow Chemical, they're accelerating their Industry 4.0 programs to harness the power of machine learning, big data, and cloud computing. Now, you might think that means less workers, but it doesn't. It just means a different model and different kinds of workers. People are actually crucial to designing and maintaining these initiatives, which means that the most important capital now is human capital. Talent has become the primary investment driver for many investment decisions. Where goes the talent, so goes the investment. And that's where we have an advantage, actually. Not only do we have the talent, but we can attract it. Our high quality of life, low cost of living, and diverse housing options are key parts to attracting that top talent to our region. Another investor trend you'll see here that COVID has increased is the importance of ESG, or environmental, social, and governance. To screen potential locations, communities are being ranked based on attributes like geographical stability and equity, diversity, and inclusion. And finally, you've probably heard of the terms nearshoring or onshoring over the past year. Well, as a result of the pandemic and supply chain disruptions, companies are changing their investment strategies in an effort to get closer to inventory and to customers. And speaking of customers, consumer spending and exports are really key drivers of our economy. So in a global pandemic where rolling lockdowns of businesses and borders happened across the world, it's understandable why Alberta's economy was hit hard. But there is good news, and this is where I do agree with Benjamin. As he said, there's pent-up demand in consumer spending that becomes unleashed once lockdowns are lifted and spread of the virus is contained. You've already seen this play out through the housing market last year. As your incoming chair, Tom, said just last week to the Edmonton Journal, real estate sales increased as lockdowns lifted last summer. But one thing you may not have heard is actually a new, somewhat terrifying term that McKinsey & Company actually coined to describe this unleashing of pent-up consumer demand. They're calling it revenge shopping. Well, whether consumers are quarantine shopping or revenge shopping, there have been changes to how and what they spend on. And according to Shopify's market insights team, a lot of these changes are going to be the new normal. For example, consumers are now committed to virtual experiences, to buying local, and to online shopping. In fact, some of you might be doing that right now. No judgment, that's totally fine. They are focusing also, they're spending more on purchases for technology, health, and home, as the home has become a place where we not only live, but work, play, innovate, deliver speeches, and learn to make sourdough bread, according to my Facebook feed. So what does that mean for industry trends? Well, companies and industries that are surviving and, more importantly, thriving are ones that innovate, adapt to new realities, and even create entirely new products. Transformative technologies have become more relevant now than ever. The application of artificial intelligence across truly every industry has led this to be one of the biggest and fastest growing markets globally. In agriculture, plant-based protein, food and beverages, and nutraceuticals are two of the fastest growing food and agri-food subsectors. We've all seen the influx of Beyond Meat Burger commercials, and if you're wondering what nutraceuticals are, think probiotics, omega-3s, those berries that nobody can pronounce, acai, you know the ones I'm talking about, pretty much anything you can find at Booster Juice. And major meat companies like Maple Leaf Foods are investing in plant protein. Major pharmaceutical companies are investing in nutraceuticals. signaling a tectonic shift in the market. Pharmaceuticals and PPE, or personal protective equipment, like masks and face shields, have been a hot topic throughout the pandemic, certainly, with supplies from China and India being disrupted, other countries hoarding and attempting to lock down exports, and the race to produce a new vaccine. Those industries are growing, but they're also expected to continue to grow through the next 5 to 10 years. Here in the Edmonton region, we have the ability to be global leaders in all of these areas and create made in Alberta solutions to the world's most pressing problems. But it's not good enough anymore to take a passive approach to, well, anything really. We can't waste resources chasing every shiny object or putting out vague marketing pitches on the assumption that investment is just going to come our way. And it's not just me saying this. Earlier this year, an international site selector addressed a group of government officials, not here, but somewhere else, and he told them that my job is not to select your community. My job is to eliminate your community from the list. Your job is to make a compelling case for why you deserve to be on the list. So given all of that, I'd say that now is the time for us to get creative, aggressive, and targeted. Shifts in the global economy mean that opportunities that were once a sure thing for us just aren't anymore. But these shifts also have opened new doors for the Edmonton region. We can now compete in areas where we couldn't before. This is more than hope. These are concrete opportunities where we can compete to win. And that's why last fall, Edmonton Global developed strategies for targeting investment opportunities that reflect the assets we have, the things we do well, and the things the world is looking for now. So when those global investors are ready to unleash their pent-up demand and start revenge shopping for a new location, we're ready. I'll give you some examples. So in plant proteins and nutraceuticals, our region is actually unique among competitors because we have both a thriving urban metropolis and access to high volumes of rich agricultural land. Did you know that Canada exports more plant protein crops like peas, beans, and lentils than any other country in the world? And much of that comes from this region. What if we took those crops, added value, sold plant protein, food, and beverages to global consumers for a much better return? Number one, few Canadian jurisdictions certified to produce drugs for human consumption, and we're already doing it. We also have an airport certified for special handling and shipping of pharmaceuticals. We have world-class talent, equipment, and inputs from petrochemical sectors that can be used for pharmaceutical manufacturing. And we have the research expertise, helping to develop leading-edge innovations. With those nearshoring trends I mentioned earlier, we're now strongly competitive for these opportunities. And in artificial intelligence, our unique value proposition is that we are the only jurisdiction among our competitors who have world-class expertise in artificial intelligence and a massive scale energy cluster right here in the region. We also have the largest single health authority in Canada. These assets make us a prime location for artificial intelligence applications in energy and health and others. And as you saw on the previous slide, those are two of the fastest growing markets. These represent a path to economic growth, and they're grounded in rigorous analysis. Edmonton Global has already started pitching investors on these and other opportunities. But this is not just an Edmonton Global initiative. This is an Edmonton Region initiative. In other jurisdictions, investors are met with a united front of utilities providers, mayors, school board officials, real estate, banks, police, fire, whoever is needed to help close that deal. We need everyone involved in attracting investment to this region. We need a whole of community approach to pitching. And let's not let money or anything be a barrier. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, we just have no incentives to offer you, let's say, what can we do to get you here? And then work together to find creative solutions and a path to yes. And this next part, I think you know better than anyone, all of you. The work doesn't stop when we get a yes. Just like with a house sale, a lot can go wrong between an investment decision and when you hand over the keys. It's that last mile that really counts when it comes to finding a place to live, finding the right talent, integrating into the community, essentially establishing deep roots. That's a critical part of the investment cycle. And that's how we compete to win, by collaborating locally every step of the way to compete globally. I said it last year, and I'm going to say it again. Collaboration and innovation are the keys to our economic resilience. So I've talked a lot about what the research tells us about economic market trends and what the Edmonton region's assets are. But I want to close by talking about something that isn't found in the research or data, but that is also part of our unique selling proposition. And I know it personally and empirically to be true. One of our region's greatest assets is actually all of you. Doesn't this picture of a large group gathering feel as far removed from our current reality as VHS tapes? But regardless, honestly, of how we come together, the fact that we always find a way to come together and support each other is what makes this community unique. Here, passion, talent, and determination are all you need because the community will rally around you. Whether you were born here or just moved here, it's what we do. Don't believe me? Did you know that we're the volunteer capital of Canada? Still don't believe me? Well, the reason I know this is because I moved here almost 6 years ago, knowing almost no one. I had the same vision for career, community, and family that draws so many people to this region and this province. And people in this region took chances on a new face. They gave me opportunities, and it's through those people that I've been able to be part of some amazing and transformative initiatives. And now I get to give back to the community that gave so much to me by promoting it to the world. I honestly think that I'm proof that our welcoming community and supportive community are assets that attract people here, keep them here, and create passionate advocates. If we can harness that unique attribute in a more strategic way, we can help with that last mile of attracting talent and investments to our region. So I'm going to leave you with a bit of a challenge. What can we do to help newcomers integrate into our community? What can we do to hire new graduates so that they stay here? What can we do to help our entrepreneurs and innovators solve the world's biggest problems? What can we all do to help the Edmonton region go from second to first on an investor's list of options? How do we convince them that this is the place to build their business, their home, and their family? Let's do what we do best. Let's come together and make something great happen. Let's refuse to settle for what simply comes our way or gets bestowed upon us. Let's create the kind of community and future that we want. Because there is opportunity in crisis. There is hope in despair. And honestly, there is a fire inside us. We have a great story to tell. So I say let's tell it to the world. Thank you so much.